When heading out in winter, crampons can be an essential tool to keep us safe and secure. There's going to be two things that we really need to consider. Is it going to be suitable for the terrain you're in, and is it going to be compatible with your boots? In this guide, we're going to break up our crampons into two component parts. The binding system, which is the bit that attaches to your boot, and the base, what features we're going to have for securing ourselves to ice or rock. When looking at the binding system, we're going to have two primary options. Whether we're using a bail system, as featured here on the toe and the heel, or a clip system on more technical crampons. We're also going to be looking at utilising a strap or a tether to secure the crampons to our boots. When looking at the base of our crampons, there's some key things to consider. What type of flex or non-flex bar we're going to have, the different types of points that we'll talk about later in the video, and whether we're utilising anti-balling plates. That's these yellow parts here. That's going to help prevent snow clogging up the base of our crampons. When picking our crampons, we're going to be looking at the C rating system. So there's C1, C2 and C3 rated crampons. It's important to note with the compatibility that when it comes to a C1 crampon, we're able to use that with a B1, a B2 or a B3 boot. When it comes to a C2 crampon, we're able to use that with a B2 or a B3 boot. A C3 crampon is only compatible with a B3 boot. Primarily, the C rating system relates to how our crampons attach to our boots. Some crampon bases that we sell have a variety of attachment systems, and that affects whether they are rated as a C2 or a C3 crampon and whether they're going to attach to different boots. For example, the G12 that we see here is either a pneumatic, which is a C2, or a crampomatic, which is a C3 crampon. C1 crampons are only compatible with B1 boots. B1 boots don't feature a toe or a heel welt and are going to need to use bails. When using the combination of C1 crampons and B1 boots, we're going to be looking at general winter walking, something where we're not getting into too steep a terrain and it's just going to give us general traction in a broad spectrum. C2 crampons are going to be compatible with B2 boots. That's where we're going to see the heel clip on the back of the crampon being used in the heel welt on the back of the boot. We're still going to be using baskets on the front. With C2 crampons, we're going to see a lot more variation with the bases. With here, we see the Irvis with a much more simple style, and the Lynx much more technical crampon. The C2 binding system, as we've mentioned, features the clip at the back. This gives you a much more locked in, secure feel when front pointing or on steeper terrain. C3 crampons are going to be attaching to B3 boots. On B3 boots, we're going to see a welt at the toe and the heel, so the front and the back. On the crampons, we're going to see this bar at the front and the clip at the back, and that's going to give us maximum security when we're climbing on steep terrain. The attachment system of the C3 crampon to the B3 boot is shown here, where we've got the bar attaching to the welt on the toe and the clip attaching to the welt on the heel. This is a really secure, simple system. The bases of C3 crampons, as you can see here, can have some really wild variations. Something much more simple and lightweight for ski touring to something much more technical with a mono point here for winter and mixed climbing. The wild variation that we can see here of the points on the base of the crampons will go into a deeper dive next. Crampon points are situated at the contact points of our forefoot and heel. These are going to give us maximum traction on snow, ice or rock. Most crampon points are going to be steel or stainless steel. This is going to give us more strength and durability. It's also a heavier material, so when we're going to be looking at ski touring, we'll often be looking at aluminium. The number of points on the base of the crampon are going to affect the traction that we have on a variety of terrain. Here we see a 10-point crampon. For more simple, less aggressive terrain, such as winter walking or ski touring, we're going to generally be using 10-point crampons as we see here. When we're in more steep or technical terrain, we might be using either 12-point or 14-point crampons. This is going to maximize our traction. Horizontal points are primarily under the foot. These are the vertical shark's tooth shaped points we see here. That's going to be when we're on more level terrain, giving you traction downwards. Vertical points we can see here at the front of the crampons. When we're on a steeper incline, these are going to come into play. They're going to give us more traction in compacted snow and ice, and they're going to act more like an ice axe pick and potentially give us more traction in vertical rock as well. As we can see here, vertical front points can have a bit of a variety. Something that looks more like the shark's tooth on the rest of the crampon, or something that mimics more of the front of an ice axe. That's going to help us dig into ice without shattering and smashing the ice. Some front points, as we can see here, due to wear and tear, are designed to be removed and replaced. Duel points are going to be the most popular technical C3 crampons. They're going to give us more stability on everything but the steepest terrain. Mono points are going to be utilised by climbers on the steepest terrain, on ice or dry tooling. They're going to be used where precision is paramount. Crampon bars connect the toe and the heel together. They're there to provide adjustability, and you need to make sure that you're set up correctly before heading out into the mountain. It's a lot easier to adjust and set up your crampons at home in the warmth when you're nice and dry, and you can have a bit of a practice, making sure that you're prepared for when you are out in the cold and the wind on the hill. It's going to be easier for you to work with. Some people might be unsure when to put crampons on when it comes to being in winter, and my best advice is to go use an instructor or a guide to get the best experience. However, my top tip would be when you're thinking that the terrain is getting a bit technical and you're needing more traction in snow and ice, that's going to be your key time to get them on. It's important to note, if you do have your crampons on, you should be looking to use your ice axe as well. More and more in winter, we're seeing people wanting to use micro spikes, and these can be a great tool in our bag to give us some traction without going to the full scale crampon. They're something that are ideally suited to when there is little bits of ice, but a lot of exposed rock. They give us a little bit of traction, but not too much. It's important to note, if we are considering using micro spikes, that they're not designed for more technical terrain. If we are getting into terrain that we would consider consequential, it's important that we look at using mountaineering boots, winter crampons, and having an ice axe with us. If you want to find out more about our crampons, please feel free to head into any one of our stores to get more information. In our Fort William and Aviemore stores, you're also able to hire a variety of crampons to test them out before you buy. If you are considering buying crampons to head into winter terrain, you're almost definitely going to want an ice axe. Check out our buying guide on ice axes to find out more.